Hello, good evening, and welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and those who identify otherwise. I'm Oliver Anderson, Mr. One of Oliver, and behind the cameras, as always, our Grandpa Chris Hill. In the shed this evening, of course. A rainy afternoon, it looks like at Spa so far. A rainy evening the drivers might be able to look forward to, but who knows? Weather changes quickly around these virtual areas. A great look at Spa, of course, one of my all-time favorite tracks to watch motorsports at, and a track that we definitely have been racing at once or twice before. I do remember good times and bad times around here. Many good corners for overtakes, many good corners for battling, many good corners for potentially high-risk overtakes and crashes as well. And of course the famed long endurance pit lane here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. What could possibly go wrong for this great evening of racing? 20 plus drivers on the server doing a little bit of final practicing at the minute at a slightly wet track, mildly moist, some would say. And good evening, Merrick van Melis as well, and the rest of the YouTube viewers out there watching this evening. We are terribly sorry for missing the race last time out. An interesting one. It actually was looking at replay files from it, but unfortunately, the perfect storm happened, and we couldn't be there for that one. But we are definitely back in full force for this one. Oh, well, the full mighty force of the two of us here in the small shed. But anyway, you know how it is. Race days are always good to be upon us. I think we have a track guide link somewhere in the background. Just for the sakes of it, maybe if we're lucky or something. Yes. On the run. The start line, of course, is the endurance start here on the run down towards Erouge. Fully on the throttle at this point. Erouge radio on full throttle as well. You can't go side by side full throttle, so when we see the starter and you see the car side by side, if someone's single file behind, they'll get a massive run through Erouge and Radion. Coming up the Camel Straight through Camel King, and then the Camel Straight itself. It's actually going slightly uphill all the way down the Camel Straight, and quite a bit more than we can see here in the cameras before heading into Laguna. Great section of the track, the right combination. Off camber through the second part, the left hand. You don't want to go all the way to the right before heading into this final part of Laguna, because then you can't get the angle to it. The run, very steep descent in towards Brussels, the 180-degree downhill hairpin that turns around very narrow, one of the slowest parts of the track. Not the slowest though, before heading into No Name Corner. Interesting one, because if you go wide here, of course we are on old Spa, so there's the runoff there in modern days. We don't have tarmac out there anymore before heading into the famous corner of Puong. One of the most spectacular corners of all of motor racing to see cars go through. It is unbelievable to see the cars run through this corner in real life, I must say. Coming out of Puong, we are going into Piff Path. Corner of many names, to be honest, but I would prefer to call Piff Path the right-left-hander. Just balancing the car at the edge of the grip when you go through here always feels so light when you are running on full force. Into Stavelo Corner here at the bottom of the track. The point furthest downhill, I believe, on the track, through Stavelo and into Paul Frere, before the run up towards Blanchimont. It's full throttle from this point and all the way up to the bus stop. Going uphill again on the straight here at Spa. Not that straight of a straight, I must say. It does curve a little bit on the run. Keeping up, following the racing line that we can see just below us before heading into Blanchimont. Full throttle through, just on the edge of the capabilities of the GT3 cars, but full throttle through Blanchimont. And then into the bus stop, the slowest part of the track. Maybe La Sarre is actually a little bit slower. Through the bus stop, the very hard braking point into the right-hand corner, then the left. It's above 90 degrees, the first right-hand of that particular part of the track, down towards the finish line. Crossing it here, and then into technically turn 1 on the track, La Source. Also super tight corner where you rotate the car and want to get as early on the throttle as possible to maximize the speed on the run down the main straight through Erouge Radion again, and then up Camel Straight. Wonderful track for racing, especially multi-class racing gets interesting around here. because all different kinds of classes will do very, very different speeds through the high-speed corners of Spa. A track where most of the drivers are very, very experienced. It's a track that at least the drivers of my age will have been driven all our lives, all the way back to the old Formula 1 games. And those who played Forza will have played it there as well. And yeah, basically all through most racing games, this track have been included. One of the most famous circuits in the entire world. I'd probably put it as a better racing circuit than the Nürburgring. It's more spectacular than the Nürburgring, but not that good for actual racing. But this one, 7 kilometers of pure action-packed racing. Is it just 6? Maybe someone in the YouTube chat will correct me on that. But what a racing circuit we are looking at tonight, and with these drivers that we'll have lined up and unpredictable weather, this will most definitely be an evening to remember here on the Simsport Racing International YouTube channel. Do remember to hit the like and subscribe button and the bell for notifications for when we go live. By the way, this being round 4 of the championship, this will also be a time that we'll start seeing the clear favorites in the championships pop up. I must be honest that I haven't opened the standings on my PC at the minute, but I'll definitely get them ready for you before the race, so we can talk a little bit about that when we actually go racing. But definitely this will be a decisive one. A track that, even if, as said for the drivers, they know it so well, so even if you don't do a lot of practice before this race, you will still have it very much so in your muscle memory. Everywhere you'll go racing, you'll find it. If you go online racing in just public lobbies, you'll find this track. All other racing games as well, and especially on Assetto Corsa with the GT3 cars that we have here that are quite easy to drive. It does lend itself very, very well to a lot of interesting battles around this track. Pit stop strategy today, of course, it's the, what is it, Chris? Is it a 1 hour race we are in for tonight? Oh, it's a 75-minute race. Oof, an extra 15 minutes of action-packed racing for you guys out there. But 75-minute races, that means it's only fuel that's mandatory in the pit stops. And that could be a big thing this evening if it will be a wet weather race. Even though that you gain a lot of time on fresh wets, it might actually not be worth it if you can just nurse your wets all the way through. Especially with a pit lane this long, although you have to come through the pit anyway, so it will just be the tires, of course. But yeah, it could be an interesting one, especially for the Ferrari drivers, and considering that you're not using that much fuel when it's raining in comparison to dry weather racing, then the pit stop time required to just take fuel might just be the shortest possible splash and dash that you could do around here. So yeah, it will be interesting whether or not that fresh tires are worth 25 seconds or not. And in these races with the wets, of course, I think most people, they will fuel their cars to go as deep as possible, because most drivers, they will only know the weather forecast for the next 30 minutes of driving. And if you do plan on starting the race on half tank and boxing at the halfway point, then you are kind of a little bit on the bad side of the strategy if it dries up 15 minutes after you already took your pit stop. And then you'll most certainly have to come into the pits to again to change your tires. But I think we are getting ready for qualifying, as we have live pictures from qualifying on board with an Aston Martin of sorts. I think that's Odelman that have parked the car. Might have gone out on a dries initially to test it out, and now on wets probably. Hard to say, really damp track. You could drive Spa in damp conditions on both wets and dries. But I do believe for most drivers they will select the wet tires. Hard to see from this angle what tires you put on, but yeah, I will assume that most people would be on the wets. Yeah, with this much of spray coming up from behind the cars, I would definitely go with the wets. But Ullman back out on track, this time on the correct tires or correct fuel. We don't know exactly what went wrong there the last time out when he started his run. How many cars are there on the server this evening, Mr. Hill? There are 30 cars. That's actually a rather big grid. So that could mean an at least interesting start to the race also later on in the race as well. We could end up having back marks that have to be lapped, even though that the track is very long. But do remember with the pit lane, it could also be interesting for the at least the midfield drivers. If they take a pit stop before the front runners, they could potentially come out of the pits into blue flags and lose time on that. Also, speaking of the weather, it does seem that it will not rain during qualifying at all, so the track should be getting quicker and quicker all throughout this session. So this might be one of those situations where it's all about being the last driver to cross the start-finish line. I do remember one of the first seasons that I raced all the way back when it was SSRI, I believe we were called back then. We had a qualifying at Suzuka, maybe. It wasn't in the SSRI days. I can't honestly remember at this point, but definitely a wet qualifying that right at the end dried up. So those who took the pit stop, myself included, or returned to garage to take the slicks on, we were 3 seconds quicker than the guys on the wets. And that was definitely one to remember. And the knowledge of when to change tires in situations like this are very, very important. Something that only experience will tell you. Because you need to change the tires just before, so it will be ready for the dries when you start your lap, if you only have that one shot at it. So yeah, let's see what will happen this evening. And of course, if you do that, then it's very important not to invalidate your lap time, because if you do so, then it might be the difference of starting in the top 5 and starting dead last on the grid. So yeah, interesting qualifying we have this evening. Martin Coy in the frame in his BMW on a flying lap. Of the Win Motorsports BW Special. I assume it's livery that's he calls special, because that is very, very well made, I must say. Usually not the biggest fan of the black and grey cars, especially not the cars that are mainly black, because there's so many of them, but with the yellow rims, this truly does pop, or even golden rims. And the detailing on the car, actually, when we get a good look at it, you can see within the black in the back, you have the gold trimming as well. Stunning livery that they have put together here at the Win Motorsports team. And across the line we go. The first lap times are coming onto the board, and Coit goes to second behind Sinatro, who is currently quickest with a 2:25 dead lap time. And Coy goes immediately into the pits. Might be going for the strategy of going out one lap and then back to the pits. It is a little bit risky at Spa, because the out lap is very long and don't get that much out of it. But fresh wets are definitely always better than slightly worn wets. Sinatro in the picture, we saw a Mustang there in front that went wide, so that Mustang will have invalidated his lap time. And if Sinatro catches up, then the Mustang will have to pull out. He could have been lucky there, Sinatro, if that Mustang would have stayed ahead up until the bus stop chicane and pulled given him the slipstream. But not this time around. Peters have gone to the top of the board with a 2:24.1, who also goes into the pits immediately after. This could potentially be the story of the qualifying. 2 drivers have done that so far. I think Bus did it as well. Tim Boss in 5th position in the 115 BMW. None of the AM drivers have gone to the timing board yet, but Coy currently the quickest in silver class, and Peters in the pro. But on board with Sinatro with just one more corner to go, the bus stop chicane. Looks nicely through, takes the first inside curve and the second, but here on the exit it's important to control the throttle. On AC it doesn't matter too much, because you'll run quite high TC usually. Goes to the top of the table, but just by 22 thousandths of a second. Here on AC you'll run a lot of TC on the cars usually, so it's not that important to be a master of throttle control, but you still gain a lot of time if you can keep it away from the traction control and have it on the throttle just before that TC kicks in. And just the rotation there through the bus stop is so difficult to get right. Getting it pointed in a straight line at just the right time when you push down on the accelerator, that's one of the main challenges about that corner. Baldy here currently set in third place. He does have the the Ferrari in front of him that will tow him all the way up the back straight if the Ferrari stays ahead. Baldy from MP, of course. Oh, sorry, MR. In the number 13, it's unlucky for some. Whether or not they'll be so for Baldy as well, we'll have to wait and see. Was quite funny when Red Bull came with that for their car presentation. RB13 unlucky for some, and then they had a stinker of a season with the car, if I remember correctly. But yeah, look at that. He actually does get the tow. Will the Ferrari pull out of the way before the bus stop? I would do that if I was the Ferrari, because then you could take the tow down the camel straight, but no. He actually stays in front. That could be a little bit impeding, because the Ferrari is not on a hot lap. You can tell by the blue flags being waved. I would not be happy about that if I'm Baldy and I go top. He does go top, but only by less than a tenth. Ferrari even pulls off after crossing the line there. Maybe it's a driver without the HUD on, but he would still have seen the blue flags. And you don't get blue flags in qualifying if you're on a timed lap. The track have gone greasy at this point, so it is getting very, very close to dry tires. I actually think it have gone to dry tires if you can stay on the dry line of the track that have started to form. Florian Arf definitely not on a valid lap after that excursion through Radion. Interesting livery on that car. Not too much detail, just the 24 or 25 on the side. I don't know what that's a reference to be honest. Is that one of the standard liveries? I don't think it is. Yeah, it could be. It could be one of the standard liveries, to be honest, as Chris Hill is pointing out in the background. Still don't know what that 25 stands for. It's definitely not the car's racing number. It might be if it's a British GT car. They would have their number, but no, I just think he would still have the... No, maybe not. I don't know, honestly. I should maybe just stop rambling and look at the on-track action as the 41 car returns to garage. A lot of top names still found lap time. Nick Vargas jumps to 4th. Pulls up, I think he'll go in and take a fresh set of dry tires and go back out on track. Fiore from MR Reparte Coaching, the Italian team that I've joined with a lot of cars, it looks like this evening of racing. They might be looking for some strong results. Does look like dry tires on that Ferrari. Or is the yellow marking the wet tires? Obviously not the one within the rim, but on the tire wall itself. You can see there's a little bit of a yellow marking running around. It's been so long that I can't remember if that's the wet tires or the dry tires that have that yellow marking on the tire itself. Can Chris remember that? Well, Chris can't even remember what day of the week it is, so it might be difficult. But to be fair, he's also a man in the age that if he went out for drinks now, he would probably still have a hangover in November, so... Yeah. It is what it is. Fiore at least on a pretty reasonable lap so far. Running a little bit wide there through Stavelo. I think you are allowed to do that. Maybe not on the track limits on this track. But on the run-up. Invalidated lap, but let's see, he might just be testing out the limits, whether or not that he can be full front through Blanchimont at this point, but running a little bit wide there as well. To the bus stop he goes. And starting another lap. The finish line will also be the timing line for this race, so he'll come across now to start another flying lap. Yeah, that was a 2:24.2. His last lap that would have put him up into roughly 4th position. Also super close between the top 3, Baldy, Sinatra and Peters. Less than a 10th between the 3 of them on this massive track. Another one of the MR drivers. With Baldy in the Aston Martin. Might actually just be a little bit too greasy for the dry tires to work perfectly. I think I would at this point risk the dryers and go out just to get a little bit of a feel for the track. Looks like the front engine cars actually seems to be doing quite well. The usual Ferrari suspects are quite far down the running order. Vargas are the best placed Ferrari in 6th. Dropping to 7th now as Ailing jumps up to 5th. And Garcia comes as well. Lap times are dropping at this point, as expected, as the track is drying up. Peters in his Porsche. A good rate distribution in the Porsches for wet weather racing. As he runs through pit path and into to Stavelo, also known by some people the corner with the house on the inside. Not that I ever noticed that before I started doing commentary. As he runs up now, all of the top drivers basically are in, a lot of them at least in the top 6 was just into the pit stop for Liebstein, Ailing, Cageman and Sinatra still in the pit lane. Peters comes around, good improvement so far this lap. Through bus stop. Start, finish straight, does he get the power down? Didn't look too good on the power there out of the bus stop, but he does go fastest 221.9. A few years ago that would probably be the best that I would ever be able to do in qualifying trim around this track. And this is still in greasy conditions for these guys. A few years back, we were maybe talking 5 years, but just a few years. Only Bas van Mellis in the no one in the top 23 now in the pit lane, as Bas also came out there. A lot of Aston Martins seem to be in the top 10. We haven't seen improvements from the BMWs for a while, or Mustangs, except for Keitonen. Baldy going through, that looks a little bit wide. Maybe in Vettel we have to wait and see. Just the bus stop to go. Can he put the power down better than Peters? Definitely an improvement at this point. On the front, looked very good out of the final corner. He does go quickest. But the trend continues between the top drivers being within a 10th of each other. For Liebenstein, the Honda. I think this would be one of the trickiest cars to drive in these conditions. It's not that nice on well, in a lot of situations, but weight transfer and running on the curves, elevation changes, stuff like that. The Honda doesn't feel too good when you do stuff like that with it, but Van Liebenstein have stuck it with the VTEC power. Support out the jet for Koi as well. Currently set in 5th. Cardinal goes to the top of the standings. AM driver sits on pole at the minute. The sandbags definitely came off of that car. Just beaten though as he drops to 2nd as Van Liebenstein rounds the final 2 corners. How far up will Van Liebenstein jump? Up into 5th. Peters have taken the personal pole back. 2 laps to go for Van Liebenstein. Now the sun is really coming out on the track. All of the wet patches seems to have gone at this point. There's a little bit of mildly moist tarmac out there. Keitonen and the beautiful Little Red Mustang. I do like keeping the speed stripes on cars like this. Also the change from black to white on the speed stripes, very good detail from Keitonen. as he comes out. Oh, into the wall he goes at the top of... where's that? No, that's coming out of No Name. Cateran's qualifying is over. Usually a driver we could put into the... at least the top 10, maybe even top 5 usually. For Cateran, he is out of it. Not enough time to go back to the pits and take a fresh set of tires as he gets in the way there of Peters, I think. Big damage on that car. Just return to garage, man. Why Edo in the chat? Who is Edo? We would like to know. But Senatore or Senatore, I think maybe it might be the right way to pronounce that. It does get a tow up through Blanchmont. Car head is on a valid depth though, so he will not be pulling out of the way for him. He'll have one more attempt for Senatore in this one. He does flash the lights, pulls out of the way, does the Ferrari in front, but not the most optimum run through the bus stop. One more lap for Senatore as he crosses the line. Will he jump? He does go fastest. Half a second so far quicker than Jordi Peters. Final lap for Senatore as he goes out. Nick Vargas currently set in 7th position through No Name, where we just saw Cateran crash out. Still have about half a track, or just over half the track for Nick Vargas. This will also be his final qualifying lap. At this point the track is almost getting green instead of greasy, I would say. Does look very, very dry out there, but it will not go green until all of the wet patches are gone. Some drivers going in, drivers in the pit lane now, by the way, they cannot improve their laps as they don't have time to come out and set a flying lap, so they'll probably just stay in the pits. Same goes for the drivers that are crashing out there. And Vaedo is still being mentioned in the chat, so I don't know who that is. We'll probably find out later on in the race, but Vargas through Blanchimont he goes. He does get a little bit of a tow from that Aston Martin up ahead. He have caught up massively to that Aston. Into the bus stop. Oh, that gets too close. Maybe that's that was the difference between Vargas for a pole or not. He was up by 1.1 seconds before the bus stop, and through the final or across the line he goes in the provisionally 3rd. Senatore also done qualifying as he's into the pits. Jordi Peters still out there on track somewhere. Sayani from MR does have a traffic ahead of him. That's the 55 car. That's Wolf Garcia, who could potentially also jump a lot of positions. So I don't think Garcia will be giving this position up, or giving his track position up to Sayani at all. Both of these drivers definitely top 10 qualifiers. We haven't seen Sayani before, I think, but Wolf Garcia, he would be a usual suspect for the top 10. He's currently all the way down at 18th position. So let's see as both Sayani and Wolf Garcia, they're coming into the final couple of corners. There's quite a few more drivers are finishing their final laps. Coy currently sitting in silver pole. Sayani getting a little bit held up there, but Garcia in his full rights to do so as he's also on a lap. Sayani goes to 4th, Garcia 7th. Baldy still on top, and that was Cardinal who's gone 3rd, and Peters goes 2nd. Big improvement there. Very close to dry times, and rain expected in half an hour, as will just 3 more drivers. Bar's next car to cross the line, but more interestingly, von Liebenstein goes 5th. The 87 car will be the final to get a lap time in. That would be Willems, who takes pole position in the silver class. Cardinal gets it in the AM category. Time pressure is a gamble, 22-22. Yeah, it will be. Let's see how it will be in the race. But as per usual, we'll have a little bit of a pretend commercial break before the race start. Also, it's a long formation lap on this track, so plenty of time for you guys to go get some water, go to the toilet, do whatever you need before the race, and the action really starts here at Spa. do expect rain in this race, high chances at least, but we'll be right back after these pretend commercials. as we are back as the drivers have rolled onto the formation lap. Looks to be very, very wet early on, and rain will increase in intensity throughout this session, it looks like, at least for the first half hour. Having had a quick look on the driver standings, it is a points tie currently in the pro category between Baldy and Fredriksson. Well, we haven't seen Fredriksson this evening. Is he a no-show this time out? It does look like it. Unfortunate for Fredriksson, that could put him out of championship contention, or it will most definitely put him out of championship contention. So it will be Baldy, von Liebenstein, Nick Vargas was just on the edge of fighting range, I would say, and then with a little bit of luck, Jordy Peters can still challenge for this this title. It would require some bad luck from Baldy in the front, but very interesting in the pro class. Silver class, Koi have won all of the races so far, but it's still tied with the drop round. Do you remember that? Mick Schillikens in second place in that championship on that class, with 42 points total after having been scored for 2 P2s. So he's also in a realistic fighting range of that. A little bit of a stretch to get Grazioli into the mix as well, but he could potentially fight up to it. Same goes for Dimitri Willems if bad luck strikes for Koi in the last 2 rounds. Koi could potentially secure the championship this time out with a strong result here at Spa, which seems very, very likely. In the AM class, though, 3 drivers share the top step currently, though one of the drivers have signed out of the championship, but Misha Melis and Anil Ukunulugu share 43 points, and Lil Sherman behind those 2 drivers on 36. Then a big gap down to Dickman with 21 points, only showed up for the first round. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that AM class pans out today with Cardinal theoretically in AM set in P3 here on the starting grid. He might be bumped. He might be bumped a little bit up after this event. We'll have to wait and see for that one. But definitely rain. It's Edo Baldy. That's the Edo that was talked about in the chat earlier. But yeah, Baldy on pole. Mr. Evelyn's also joining the chat. Hello there, Mr. Evelyn's. Long time no talk. Just cheering on for some good racing or the broadcasting crew, maybe. Hard to say really, but yeah, interesting race this evening. Baldy in pole in the pro class, and Willems took the pole for the silvers. I might be calling them semi-pros at some point during this evening, but bear with me on that. Caterinen starting way back in the order, out of position, you would say. Expect him to go up through the field. Same for Ordelman. He could potentially also run the order during this event, as the drivers, they will be told to go into to double file formation and prepare for the start. They might actually not, because they start on the endurance start-finish, I think. Yeah, don't you? Yeah, we do start the endurance, but they have been told to go double file. Something that we'll only see here in ACC with the ghosting on the formation lap. As the drivers, they have probably gotten the final heat into the tires and brakes. You could run here on the up until the final moments before the race with the foot on the brake to get a little bit of additional heat into the both tires and brakes. But yeah, we'll have to round the La Source hairpin before we get any commands to get ready. Cameras on the front and the back. Let's see as they round the final corner, which means that we are shortly about to be... We'll have to pass all the way down to the start line. Racing! Good start from Peters. He took it away from Baldy already on the initial launch. They go through. Rouge ready on. First 3 drivers not side by side. Green flags all up through the field. Few drivers running a little bit wide, but avoids major crashes so far. We have seen them happening down the run for Camel Straight, challenging from the front again. Baldy got a much better run through. Rouge ready on, got into the toe, goes through Laguna for the first time. Peters still in the lead of the race, with Baldy right behind and Cardinal in third. It looks like all drivers still running without major contact. I've been a little bit of argy-bargy further down, but not something that I've called for yellows so far. The drivers already into no name when the back of the train have not even gone into Brussels yet. It's such a long train this evening here at Spa. Jordy Peters into Pouong for the first time, being chased closely by Baldy. In these conditions, you don't really want to push it too hard through Pouong, as that curb can be very treacherous on the exit. Into Piff Puff for the first time. The 39 car have gone around. I think that's Schelikens who drives the 39 car, who have dropped to the back of the field. But still a long race, so a lot of time to catch back up and run through the order. From the roof of the lead Porsche, the Lion Speed 992 have managed to break a little bit of a gap there out of Stavelo, as Baldy and Cardinal behind. They have also managed to break the gap to Florian Arf already in third. That's actually the biggest gap in the top 25. That's between Florian Arf and Cardinal. Otherwise, they're all within a second of each other, all the way down the running order. As they come around and start technical lap 1 now, as you start on lap 0 at Spa, because you haven't passed the timing line at the point of a race start. You don't pass it before the green flags go. But close racing throughout. Looks like Sinatra is under pressure from not Van Diemenstein anymore. CF dropped. No, that is Van Diemenstein behind Sinatra in the Aston Martin. Arf in front of them in the lone Audi, I believe. Not any other Audis out here taking a lot of liberties. They have track limits for the 3 drivers. It is early to take a track cut. Remember, 3 track cuts. The 4th one will give you an automatic drive-through penalty. And on a track like this, a drive-through is not what you want. But look at this. Sinatra on the attack on Florian Arf. Florian Arf does leave the door open, but not really there from Sinatra. Tries the double switchback, as it will be through the Laguna chicane. Still on the rear. Will he try it into Brussels? No, he just backs out of it. It is a very risky corner to go for it. But Florian Arf runs right, leaves the door open for Sinatra. Senatori, but no, not this time. But again, the switchback through no name. Could it be a move into Pouong? Very, very risky place to do it. But it looks like that Senatori backed off and stays behind Florian Arf for now, as they look to be very racy at this point, this early on in the race. Senatori with a lot of speed in that Aston Martin, it looks like, in comparison to the Audi. The Audi can be tricky in these conditions, even though that it's the Evo 2 Audi that have been selected by Florian Arf. That is the by far best of the Audi R8 LMS cars to drive. It is still very, very tricky in especially conditions like this. Not as tricky as the older Audis, I must say, but yeah. Let's see Senatore using all of the track available on the front bumper of Senatore's car. This is the main problem in these conditions. You can usually get a good run in the slipstream up the hill here, but you have no place to go because Blanchemont is a one-line corner. But yeah, both drivers having to lift for that corner. Look like that Off got the worst of the lifts. Senatore on the inside of the bus stop. Not this time around, but it does get the switch back. Much better exit there. He pulls alongside and looks like he takes position over the timing line that goes. Sinatra still behind, but he have pulled a little bit ahead into La Source we go. On the outside, can he get earlier on the throttle? They are very, very equal, but just touching that that yellow sausage might have lost him this one. He will have to fall in behind. They're not close enough to challenge through a Rouge. But the question is when the drivers lift through here, because that could be the difference between a good and a bad run. He might be a little bit too close to get the slingshot down the camel straight. But let's see. Arf does look to be going defensive already. With Senatori behind, but yeah, too close for the slingshot this time around. Does look for it on the inside through, and Arf really leaves 3 doors open there for Senatori, who does go through. Who just said, thank you very much, good sir, I'll take the position. Senatori will now just have to push all he can to get the gap to Free and Arf, but Arf will also have his mirror full already again by von Liebenstein at this point. 2 tricky cars to drive. The Aston a lot better on these conditions. The front engine cars are usually easier to drive. The 87 car have gone around. That's the silver class leader Willems, who'll be dropping through the field, leaving the lead to Koi. That would secure him the championship if he keeps it. Willems are back racing. Drop to 23rd. Right down with it. Yes, ACC is not dead yet. It still goes strong. Big player base in this game. Odelman further down the field as well, or further up the field from Willems, we must say. But running down in 15th position, Odelman have managed to gain quite a few. 13th actually have managed to gain quite a few positions here early on in the race. Starting, I believe, in 18th, or maybe a little bit further down than that even. Have gone to a good start. Ooh, that's another newcomer to the league. Chekharov in the 777. Mercedes, not many Mercedes either. I think he's the only Mercedes so far this season. But he have definitely dropped. Also, speaking of Dickman leading what will be AM class after this race, that will propel him directly into the championship battle, at least very close to it. But a lot of battling going on here. 3 cars in the battle, 4 cars further behind. It's crazy already. Barkey in 19th position on the inside line does manage to keep Van der Kran behind, and Grazioli right ahead of him. Could also have the very outside chance of the semi-pro or the silver championship if Grazioli will, if Koi have a bad race. But that was a little bit of an interpretation of track limits there from Grazioli. Didn't they gain anything on it though, as Sparky is right on the rear of him. 2 Ferraris and an Aston Martin, this 3-man battle. 1 black, 1 Red Bull, 1 red. Through Lake Home, they go a little bit of a slide there from Barkey, but that's just how some drivers prefer to drive in these conditions. What happened to the 44? Maybe the Drift King is dead at this point. Hard to say. When does the Sunday series start, please, Oliver? Will Chris, can you maybe inform me that in the back of my ear? If you remember, from September sometime the Sunday League will start. I'm being whispered gently in the into my ear. But exactly what happened to Mr. Steve Parker? I think he had a bad drift. Maybe contact, hard to say. I did see him in the pits early on the track map at least. So that would indicate early damage to the car. Wasn't a drive-through, because then would have told us on the graphics. Oh, actually he was so far down it could have been a drive-through. Hard to say really. We could ask him after the race, maybe. Steve Parker down here in 33rd position. No, it was a pit stop because he have cleared the mandatory pit stop, so it must have taken damage early on, or maybe he just opted to get it out the way early and thinks he can run to the end from the point when he gone into the pits, because then he'll have the advantage of running in clean air for the entirety of the race. Chekharov coming out close to him. He will pass Chekharov, it looks like, but Chekharov did seem pacey earlier on, but had a little bit of a mistake. Who also chose to take the pit stop, and we know the Mercedes can go the 65 minutes remaining in the race from this point. It does look like that the rain is decreasing in intensity within the next half hour of racing though. Further up the field, that's Coy, and is that Van der Vale in the green Ferrari? It does look like it as they go side by side on the run into a Rouge. Coy at this point, I don't think he's thinking that much of securing the semi-pro or the silver championship, as he could also still even not winning this or even retiring from this one. He could still decide it himself in the final round. So he'll be out for the overall championship maybe and getting some positions of honor there. Not something that we focus that much on broadcasting wise, as they are still side by side. And Coy gets the move on Vale, who got run a little bit deep there into Lake Com. Very, very decisive driving there from Martin Coy in the 863 car. One of the heroes earlier on for the championship. He did do a very, very good race on Imola. I do remember that one being one of the strongest racing performances we have seen in quite a while. Or at least one of the races we have seen one driver the clearly most. He was very much involved in that race in a good way. Yellow flags further down the field. I think that's Shelikins again in the 39 car, who have had a little bit of an off at Lake Com, it looked like. But he is back going again. Nicholas Carlson. Not that much pressure from behind 16th. He have made the overtake on Parties. Not that long ago, finished sector of driving. It will change on the timing bond on the left hand side shortly. Did there. And he have put on the chase to catch up to Sander Vale now. It does look like visually that he have caught up to Vale by a little bit, and that he is maybe a little bit quicker at this point than Vale. Maybe Vale just needs to find his groove in these conditions. They are very different to what it was in qualifying, of course, and we don't know if they are running wet or dry setups. If there's been time making their own or just using the standard ones. But look at that, the harmonic effect, it should be into the bus stop, but it doesn't look like that Vale increases the gap that much coming out of the bus stop. Not the best of exits there. Matt Ailing, who have dropped a lot in this race. He must have been involved in something at some point right behind Van der Kran. McLaren versus Ferrari. As they run out of La Source. Van der Kran going the wider line, which means Ailing have the run, but will he be cheeky enough to try it into a Rouge? Does look like it. He's threatening for it at least. Side by side into a Rouge. This rarely goes well. On the outside, cutting back in as Van der Kran runs deep, carrying too much speed early on, and super move there from Ailing. Really selling the dummy there on Martin Van der Kran, who drops into 20th position. Matt Ailing up into 19th. Van der Kran with line that like that through Erosion Radio on. He might actually get pressured by Gracioli from behind. If he's not too careful on the next couple of corners, Gracioli could catch up to Ailing and Van der Kran, potentially. As they go through Brussels, and Ailing not really pulling away. He have made a little bit of a gap, but that is expected immediately after you make the overtake. But Van der Kran so far sticking with Matt Ailing as they run into Puong. Also a little bit unrealistic that we see spectators on the inside of Puong in a GT3 race. We don't think we would see that realistically, to be honest. But it is what it is. A lot of virtual fans have showed up for this race out on the standings. Jordi Peter still leading the race, holding the fast lap as well for 2:25.5. But as the weather will clear up later on the race, that's Stu Vavard spun around and parked in the middle of the track, reversing the car and getting it back going. Again with the try-hard car. THRC Racing have dropped to 31st. Last of the drivers who haven't pitted yet. Jordi Peters still on the flyer. Does look very planned already. A gap of 2 seconds down to Baldy in second. That's a Dickman who have gone around. He was leading the AM class before that spin. A little bit of damage it looks like on the front as well of Dickman's Lambo there. I wonder if he's taking the early pit now, or if he counts that it will dry up later on and wait for the opportune time there. Ottleman have got himself up into 12th position. Looking for the move on Sayani. Looks on the right hand side, Sayani goes defensive, but I don't think that was too necessary as he tries the outside line now. Ottleman looked like he could have carried the speed, tries the double switch back through the Laguna chicane. Goes to the inside of the final part, that could be risky, but yeah, room left there by Sayani. And now into Brussels, he will have the outside line. But Sayani does manage to cover that off nice. He doesn't go completely as tight as possible from Sayani there, but Ottleman not really in a position to challenge for it through No Name. A little bit of a slide there from Sayani could be Ottleman's chance. Lots of virtual fans braving the weather. Yeah, ooh, he actually goes for into to Puon. Risky play still side by side through Puon. This could potentially end very badly, but they do manage to sort themselves out as Ottleman takes away 11th position in the all Aston Martin battle for the outskirts of the top 10. Well, the just outside of top 10 positions, we should say, but Ottleman up into 11th position, but Sayani not done yet. Through Stevelo, they're going into Paul Fair. Sayani will have the run. Ottleman didn't look like he got the best of lines there through Paul Fair, but he did get it sorted. Might be running a slightly lower wing setup from Ottleman because he's really pulling away on the straight. It looks like, well, the kinky straight, the uphill kinky straight. And yeah, it looks like that he is gone now from Sayani, and he will be chasing down Buzz next, who sits in the 10th position. Just within the top 10. Well, obviously when you're 10th, you're just within the top 10. That's some quantum physics there, basically. But no, really. It is what it is. Speaking of the woo, big battle down here, Matt Ailing and Van der Kran, at least in this one. I think that's Barkey in as well involved in this one. Grazioli, I can see the pictures for the sake of contact each other down the start, finish straight, or the finish straight. Both cars get out of that one without too much damage, but definitely some damage on Ailing's car after making contact with the wall. As Barkey falls down through the field with that contact. I think that's is that Carlson up ahead that got somewhat out of that? No, that's an Aston Martin that leads this pack now. I think that could have been Grazioli that got out of that the best. Van der Kran now behind Ailing, and with the damage to Ailing's car, that could give advantage to Van der Kran. Van der Kran, who went from 20th to 19th in that mess. Yeah, that is Grazioli ahead of this, and almost free wide behind. That's Caterman as well involved in that, who haven't made as much progression as I initially thought that he would in this race. Still messing about in just around the 20th position. Look at that, Matt Ailing on Grazioli through Brussels. This group of cars in these conditions, you can take so many different lines in the wet and be roughly equally fast, and it does look like that they are trying to showcase that. Also making just a little bit of a braking mistake here, braking a meter too late. That will actually push you a meter, maybe even two too wide, because you'll start getting some steering on the car as well. Not that visible in the drive with the difference in braking by a meter too, but here in the wets, you can clearly see when people makes the mistakes. Van der Kran with Barkey right behind, Caterman behind him, and then it's Parties and Willems who's in the back of this train. And just behind these guys we have Rory Stewart and Ian van der Linden as well. But who will come out a lot of different manufacturers as well. We have both the we have a McLaren, of course the Ferraris, Aston Martin and Ford involved in this one, and if we count Van der Linden as well, then it will be a BMW in the very back of this. But I think the gap between Rory and Willems a little bit too big to count Rory and Van der Linden into this battle. But the run through Blanchimont, let's go into the bus stop once again. A lot of cars going from high speed to lower speeds. That usually means a lot of condensation on track, with the cars going into very limited rooms. but no changes through the bus stop this time around. Hard battle for 7th as well being mentioned in the YouTube chat. Van der Kran going a little bit wide there this time. Baki could get the run, but Van der Kran gets early enough on the throttle to deny. But he does leave the gap up to Grazioli ahead of him. Drive through for Cardinal. They're further up the field. That's for track limits. He was running very, very well earlier on, but that will put him so far down the running order. As he is still not coming down the track. Who's that in the background? I think that's Cageman maybe. No, and not Willems either. It's parties who gone around there through Erouge and Radion. Not the best. I think that car might have some very, very worn tires, but he kept it somewhat out of the barrier, so maybe not too much damage to the car, to be honest, but definitely a little bit. And a lot of tire wear from that one. But parties did well getting that car going again. It doesn't look like the car have any scratches from visiting Mr. Barrier. He usually takes a little bit of a souvenir with him with some paint and stuff like that. Further up the field, this is Boss and Fiore. Garcia as well involved in this one, just in the background. But from Boss in the BMW, giving chase to Fiore in the Ferrari, and then Wolf Garcia behind in the Porsche. Battles going on all the way up and down the field at the minute. Van Melis also under severe pressure from Koi at this point. Koi must have made a mistake. I see if no, that was Odelman I was thinking of, but yeah, Koi have caught up to Van Melis as well further down. But speaking of battling, the 7th and 8th place here, battle furthest up the field at the minute. Still, no one. I don't think anyone is thinking of the pit stops as of yet. Highly doubt we'll see anyone coming in at the halfway point in this race, except if they feel like they have trashed their tires completely. Further down the field, Keitunen and that's Baki ahead of him, who have dropped out of the battle a little bit, with Van der Kran and Grazioli up ahead. Ailing have gone and made himself a gap in front of Grazioli at least. But look at this Cageman all over the back this time of Baki. Down the front straight, or finishing straight. Outside, does he try the cutback? He does try the cutback. What happened to Baki there? Baki just runs right, it looks like. And Cageman makes the move through La Source. And now Cageman can focus on chasing down Van der Kran up ahead, as Baki is demoted to 20th position. While Willy Cageman goes up into to 19th. Behind the trees of destiny. Back with the full look. But yeah, I think Cageman might have gapped Baki at this point, as he gives the chase. Here's Koi, who have passed Van Melis, it looks like. Van Melis behind in the orange Ford Mustang. Easy to spot car on track, not that many orange cars like this. And of course Koi in the beautiful black and black, gold and silver BMW, who's now just ahead. Bas drops to 13th. Koi, he could potentially be chasing down that those top 10 positions that Odelman currently possesses the lowest of, but still quite a way up to catch those guys. Speaking of battling in the top 10, these three, Fiore, Boss and Wolf Garcia, getting close once again. This time it looks like it's Garcia that's on the attacking side of things, getting close to form. But yeah, Fiore seems to be quite a bit earlier on the brakes there into the bus stop, but gets the run out of bus stop as well to make up for it. That could just be a preference of lines. Maybe not that much of a run there, but not too strong in the braking into the bus stop. But look how close Garcia is to form at this point. All three of them close together. Have they figured out when each other lift through Erouge at this point? Or will we ascend into chaos? Oh, looks like way too close there. And Garcia risking it with the lines he takes to try and catch up to these two, but Form on the attack on Fiore now tucks into the slipstream. Doesn't look like that he have the top end to pull through though. Interesting to see. He must be running a high downforce setup in comparison to Fiore. Also seems much more grippy through the corners. Close through. Contact there between Boss and Fiore. Garcia to the outside of all of this. Fiore getting dropped to the back of this battle group. Garcia gains the position, of course. Same does Fem Boss. But can Boss now defend from Garcia without the help of the slipstream ahead of him? Will the Beamer have the top end to deal with the Porsche behind? Does look like the Beamer have the arrow to do so in the slower parts of the track. Interesting that Garcia here opts to take a little bit more curb. It looks like than Boss. It could just have been a coincidence. No, again he is closer to the inside curbs. There, the steeper curbs in the Porsche than Boss is. That's unusual. Usually it's the BMW that's better than the Porsche on those, but could again be down to setup. He might have a little bit of damage on that BMW. Not so much that will affect the way the car drives and maybe not perform, but very, very close. I swear you never see Bentley in these league races. Now we haven't seen Bentleys for a while though. I know in other leagues there are Bentley drivers that perform reasonable. They are not too bad, but it is an old and quite dated car at this point. I think the Bentleys, they would go all the way back to yeah, maybe the Evo 1 of the Audi, maybe Evo 2 even, that area of time. They would have raced against the M6 BMWs as well, which is way back, and the Nissans, of course. But no, we don't see the Bentleys that often, but could have been an idea of a Boldly on this track in these conditions. The battling down here with Barkey, Willems and Faro. Now Barkey have dropped out of the battle with Caterham and Van der Kran. That's still raging on ahead of him. Big mistake there from Barkey as he pinballs the back of Grazioli. And that allowed Willems to go through as well. I think that was as Barkey pulls out of the way to give the position back to Grazioli. Doesn't actually give it back to Grazioli there. He haven't made the way through yet. But it tries at least to do so. Does Barkey, will definitely be lifting this time around to avoid a track cut. That was unfortunate into turn 1 there, but incidents like that can easily happen in the rain if you miss your braking point, but just that 1 meter in these conditions that or apply a little bit too much steering while you brake, then your car will go straight for a lot longer time. Speaking of battling, Caterham and Van der Kran using all of the tracks, sweeping right and left there. Caterham to try and attack on Van der Kran, puts the throttle down a little bit too early as we saw the rear end stepping out of that on that big Mustang, and once again really trying to be aggressive to keep with Van der Kran and get the run out of a corner maybe. Ooh, that's Rory Stewart that's gone around. Rory have been spun. Didn't see exactly what happened there, but Cardinal close to Rory as well. Hard to say really there, but at least that was Rory that went around. Fiore under pressure from Willems. No, that's not Willems. That is that's not Barkey either. That's that must be not Grazioli. Who is that car behind? Is it Barkey? I actually think it might be Barkey behind. Oh yeah, that's Willems in front and Barkey behind, but Willems and Fiore, or Faro, as he might actually would be preferred to be called, as Faro that takes the position, jumps up ahead in the FMP Italia Ferrari, battling behind there as well between the two Red Bull livery cars, but I think that's Barkey with the damage from we saw earlier. We would expect him to have picked up a little bit of that. as he have to give up the position to Williams. Let's see when they cross the line. Oh, that's Sparky that got ahead of Williams. Williams are the car with the damage, it looks like. A lot of support for Baldy out there in the YouTube as well. Speaking of, yeah, that is Williams with the damage. Maybe it was Williams that took out a car early on. Williams definitely with a lot of damage on that car, both the front and the rear. 55 car stopped in the middle of the Camel Straight. That's Wolf Garcia that stopped in the middle of the Camel Straight. That's a big hit that he have taken. That's that looks like that hood is very, very bent. Haven't started driving yet. That is usually not a good sign. Could have been some equipment that failed him there, because usually you'd either return to garage or go moving again shortly after something like that. I wonder if he's actually okay. Mr. Garcia there. Big impact. He returns to garage there, so he will at least be conscious. But that's Garcia out of this one at least. If we're lucky, we can find some replay footage of what happened to Garcia. I would expect either contact or just losing it through Eau Rouge. Even though that's quite a long way that he ended up coming to a stop down the Camel Straight, almost halfway between the Camel King and Lake Com. Katonen have dropped a lot to Van der Kran at this point. 1.4 behind last time over a split time. The best of those wet tires on the Mustang could have potentially already been gone with the amount of wheel spin that we have seen from Katonen at this point. But it is a very beautiful looking car, that 93 Mustang. Not that the car's from 93, but he's running the 93 number on the Beowulf Racing Team Mustang. Here we go, let's see what happens to Garcia. We have Boss there up ahead. But that's not close enough that I would expect contact. And there's another car, that's the Mercedes, big contact there between them. Does he get collected by someone else? That's not where he ended up stopping, or does he try to move? He tries to move. He contacts the 777 Mercedes and then he gets going. I think at this point he might just have realized that the car is too bent to continue driving, then he pulls over to the side and tries to decide whether or not that he will try to nurse it back to the pits or not. You can see how that car just steers straight back into the wall. That steering is completely gone on the Porsche. I thought he stopped further down the road, but yeah, nasty incident there. Definitely the 777 out of the race as well after that contact. Very, very unfortunate. Katonen having cut a little bit back up to Van der Kran. It looks like not a little bit, but a lot. Maybe a little bit of a mistake from Van der Kran at some point. Meanwhile, Carlson and Ailing also running close together. Carlson, the other of the Beowulf cars, all Scandinavian team. Oh well, not Scandinavian, all Nordic team between the Swedish and the Finnish driver. So I wouldn't count Finland as Scandinavia, to be honest. But then let's not get into the geopolitical side of things. In the middle of a good motor race, rain will be decreasing from this point on. And from the race, that's Matt Ailing that spun around through Puong, losing the McLaren. He will be dropping quite far down the order, but that did promote Carlson up into 14th position, who can now focus on giving chase to Sander Vale, who seems to have been picking up a little bit of speed as the rain have decreased in intensity, as he have gone up to 13th position. And though not really close to anyone at this point. Alderman Boss and Fiore close together at this point. Odelman have come from behind to catch up to these guys. Again, 3 different manufacturers who will be duking it out against each other. Ferrari, BMW and Aston Martin, as the grandstands are packed here at the virtual Spa. They are really showing up for all of the fans out there. By the way, if you go to Spa, the new grandstand on top of Radion, looking down there, that's actually a pretty epic sight that you can see from the top of that grandstand. Great place to watch motor racing from. Femboss really pressuring Fiore. Running nose tail, you couldn't put a car between them. As you go through Brussels, that's off. Florian off as well in the tricky Audi. He's dropped down to 6th, only lost 1 so far in that spin out there. As he rejoins the track just ahead of that Nick Vargas, I think. Looks like it. Yeah, that must have been Vargas. No, Vargas is further up. Who was that then? That's Flore, and that's a group with Flore and Boss and Odelman that Florian Arf have dropped into here. Boss coming up the inside, just touching the side there of Florian Arf, that then runs wide due to the slim contact in Piff Puff as he goes back through the grass and onto the track. Or back on the track. Odelman have gone wide as well through Stavelo. And he will be dropping time to Boss and Fiore as well. That's a little bit of a Hunger Games situation they are running. Last man standing could potentially take that position in the end. Could have been with Boss as he have dropped quite a way off of Fiore at this point. Fiore running in 6th position. With a gap now of 1.1 seconds last time over a timing line. Next time they will cross one will be the finish line. Here on the Grand Prix start finish straight. Yeah, gap 1.2 seconds between them. 2-second gap down to Odelman now. And Arf also quite far down. Van der Kran, Carlsen and Caton are still running super tight together on their little battle group. And just trying to spot... Well, have they gone away from having the triangle as the lead car on the track map? I can't see any triangles anywhere indicating a lead car. And Peters have gone into the lead. Wasn't Baldy leading for quite a while early on? Or was that? Senatori? No, Peters have been the lead car. Yeah, Peters got the start. And, at least we haven't seen the overtakes and pulled away, but Peters leads by only 6.6 seconds, which is not a lot as we have reached the halfway point in the race. Here's a little bit of a replay from what happened to Owen, I believe. It's a solo incident. He just loses the car. He loses quite a lot there. Maybe he needs to adjust the brake bias as that's a strange slide to get, especially on Aston Martin. Iron van der Linden goes to the pits and he will be betting that it will stay wet for the rest of the race as he's likely to take a fresh set of wet tires. Not the only car into the pits, I think that's the 41 that's come in as well. With van der Linden. Sayani under pressure from Koi. No, that's a Sayani and Arf we are looking at here. That's Florian Arf that's applying the pressure to Sayani, but whether or not that Arf have worn out the tires a little bit too much, track conditions have gone down to damp at this point, no longer considered wet, even though it looks like the rain is still coming down. Cats and dogs at this point. Drive through for Rory Stewart, the 41 car. He must have been speeding in the pits, not the track where you want to do that. He will definitely not be happy about himself with that. Van der Kran have caught up to Carlson. Running close together, but Carlson does look like that he have a little bit of an advantage at this point. Boss comes into the pits, he will be taking the tire change as well. As they run through the bus stop, coming onto the finishing straight leading into La Source. I think at this point the drivers have settled into their rhythms, but As the track dries up more and more and more, it's how much risk can you take all the time that you keep having to reconsider? Because as the track dries, it actually dries quite a lot per lap. When you are set behind the wheel, you can really feel it from lap to lap when you go through the corners. And if you can't progress yourself in the same pace as the track does, then you'll be losing time to your competitors. That's something that we have seen drivers struggling with before. They have been very quick in the wet and quick in the dry, but in the intermediate conditions there, when the track is changing, we have seen them fall off in situations like that. But Pharaoh down here with Matt Ailing. For 15th and 16th position. We haven't seen that many manufacturer battles within the same manufacturer. So far this race, it's usually two different manufacturers that go racing the 77. That's Gavioli in Lake Com. Did he keep that one out of the barrier? Doesn't look scarred, that white Ferrari of MR. Only dropped to 19th there from I think he was 18th before. And is that a Lambo behind? Yeah, that will not be for position, I think. Yeah, that will be, I think, the only two Lambos, actually, the two AM cars running, and then the Tesh Fredrickson, who's, no, he's not in a Lambo either this season. But, oh, Gavioli definitely with a little bit of issues there with the car. He could have picked up something there from his spin. Maybe the tires have overheated a little bit, and that's what's causing the car to get so loose. Here's the first one with Gavioli. Let's see if we can spot anything not on the curb. Inside curb that little bit, then that curb that's actually very steep. And just losing it there as he goes on the throttle and touches the curb there, but stays out of the barrier at least. So that's good news for him, so I don't think he will have any body damage to the car. Maybe a little bit from what we just saw before, but no major damage at least. Just the tires and confidence for Gavioli, but that's all about getting back up on the horse. Rain will increase again nearing the end of the race, so it will not go to dry conditions in this one, unfortunately. So those who have pitted just now, they might have done the right thing, as the track have gone to a different type of wet, so having the pressures adjusted to the current conditions would be advantageous, I would think. Gavioli still going, Caternan and Ailing into the pits, as they probably have seen that will stay wet, so they might have opted to go for the tire change at this point. Rory Stewart coming in to save his drive-through penalty. Also, I believe Parker have gained positions on stopping early. It might actually have been a strategy call that he made that early on. He have gone up to 25th position, as still a lot of pit stops to go. What does the one mean in the overall standings, please? That's how many pit stops the drivers have remaining of mandatory stops. If they have a what is that, a yellow or orange? I would say orange box around them. That would mean that they still have a mandatory stop to do, and then the number will indicate how many mandatory stops to go, and then the green ones will be if they have served all of their mandatory stops. The orange box is between the door number and timing. Yes, that one. Yes. We actually usually run through that in the start of the races. We might have forgotten this time around also with the track map and stuff, but it is what it is. But that's the pit stops remaining mandatory at least. If the drivers they choose to go in for 5 or 6 stops, we will not know anywhere written down. Maybe pit wall will tell us. Peters comes into the pits from the lead. Same with Odelman and Vavard. I think they will be changing tires at this point. They will be taking a lot of pressure out of the tires, which means that Baldy have inherited the lead and will be a leader on track. If he can take just a splash and dash when he comes in, he could potentially actually be race leader after the pit stop round as well. As that looked a little bit wide in a corner where track limits could be an issue. But yeah, Peters, he will definitely emerge as the lead driver who have taken his pit stops. So just a few more drivers. He actually gets out on track. In I thought he would have been a little bit later on track, so it would have been a more reasonably clean air. But he does have a little bit of breathing room ahead of him. Up to, I think that's Bas, one of the cars at least, and that would be Vale, the other car. Vale have caught up to Bas at this point, and having an all-Dutch battle between the two Dutchmen and teammates in mode 11. The very, very bright green car of Sander Vale, not with the classic mode 11 livery on it, by the way, and Bas van Melis with the orange interpretation of the mode 11 classic, or modern classic, we should say. They have run this livery for quite a while at this point, but not their OG liveries. I do remember them all the way back to when they ran a Lexus in the good old days. In endurance racing at least, but Vale have caught up to Bas, not by a lot, it's just a little bit lap by lap. And that's the thing now, Vale, he does seem to be quicker than Van Melis. But it's one thing is to be quicker, another thing is to actually get that move done. You can't just drive straight through people, so he will have to find a way to overtake Bas as Van Liebenstein goes into the pits as well. Van Neuwerk on the rear wing of the Mode 11 car doesn't know what that is. Ah, that's Bas's wife's garage. Interesting. I assume it's not the same kind of garage as mine that's just full of old shit, basically. Still stuff I heard the words of. Anyways, Van Melis still going strong, and it looks like he actually made a little bit of a gap there to Vale through the final sector of the track. So yeah, maybe the Mustang have a little bit of a top end on the Ferrari, as that's Jordy Peters that's catching up from behind. If Peters gets held up in traffic, that could potentially sway it a little bit into Baldy's favor. I don't think Baldy will be taking the tire change in the pit stops, and I do believe that Jordy Peters might have. So yeah, if Jordy Peters gets held up in this, that could potentially mean that Baldy could take the lead after the pit stop round. I would assume that everyone who's still out on track, they will not be taking tires in the pits. Also a strategy that I would probably have ran if I was driving. Would have been a little bit of a 50-50 though, depending on car and tire wear situations, and how if you have had overpressure too much in the start. A little bit of a slide there from Sander Vale. That is playing into Baldy's hands, because Peters had to lift for that. So time loss already, so Baldy will definitely be smiling out in front, and Vale also going a little bit defensive now into Puang, not wanting to just give it up. Baldy goes to the inside, fresher tires on Baldy's car, Vale sticking it on the outside, still very close as they come through the last parts of Puang. A little bit of argy-bargy still side by side into Piff Puff. Will this go through cleanly? It does look like it, as Peters goes through and takes 8th position on track. Yellow's flashing in turn 1 though. A driver could have been, that was Dickman, could have been a little bit of an excursion there from the Lamborghini driver, as more and more people are coming into the pits at this point. But again, what is the exact purpose of pitting now? They should still have fuel in the cars if they fully fueled them. So if they're coming in, they might actually still be going for tires. I don't think it would be worth it at this point, as they've already been driving in 8 or 9 minutes in damp conditions. So you would have obviously been suffering so far. So you would need a direct comparison to a driver of your same skill and pace to do that. That is Vale coming into the pits behind. We did see that car being very loose. So it could be for a strategic tire change, as he would maybe opt for that, as he might think that the tires would become too worn nearing the end. Matt Ailing as well, back up to Florian Arf in the battle for 20th on track. though they will gain positions as there are quite a few cars ahead of them that haven't stopped yet as they round No Name corner. And then with the run into Puong. They go through nicely. Florian Arf, we have seen, we also have seen Matt Allen for that man. Both of the cars seemed a little bit loose early on. So maybe they have sorted that out within themselves and adjusted driving style a little bit, being more smooth on the steering and throttle to avoid some of the slidiness. Through Stavelo and Paul Frere they go. Matt Ailing not really close enough to challenge for position at this point, but just keeping the pressure on, that could be potentially the way to go. And if he can adjust better to the changing track conditions here in the last half hour of the race, or 24 minutes of the race, that'd be interesting. Jordi Peter still haven't cleared Bas van Melis as he comes up behind. This will be very interesting. How this pans out in the end of the race, but do remember those fresh tires on Peters will mean that he can drive some tighter lines and will do some pretty good lap times presumably. Gets a good run there out of Paul Frere. Let's see what he can do to Bas van Melis. I don't think he will be going for it into Blanchimont even if he gets the run, because so risky. We actually do see a little bit of rubber banding situation there between them, but that tighter line there from Jordi Peters. Into the bus stop we go. Will Peters go for it? Outbraking maneuver. Very equal on the brakes there, but Bas just braking a little bit earlier and gets it done. As he goes through Koi into the pits as well from 6th position. He'll definitely be dropping down the field. Don't think he'll be taking tires either. Then it would be a very, very late call for that. But yeah, Jordi Peters now in pursuit of Sani ahead. I don't think he'll catch up to Sani though. This is Ferro and Carlson in battle. Italian versus Swedish. Or Italy versus Sweden, we should say. Ferrari, why am I speaking so randomly? Ferrari versus BMW. Up through Erosion Radio they went. In reasonable slipstreaming position is Ferro, but not quite in the slingshot area as Carlson also goes hyper defensive there. Or maybe just tries to cool the tires. That could also be an option as YT went so far right there into the wet line. Ferro looks quite a bit more grippy at this point than Carlson. As they go through Brussels. Not much between them. Into No Name. Again, it's all about if you make that small mistake on the throttle or not. That can lose you so much time and a good few meters in these battles. Tighter lines from Ferro there through Puan though. This could go to the wire, but this is a situation as well as it would have been with Vale and Van Melis before Vale's pit stop. It is, even if you're quicker, you still have to find the way through. You have to find a way to make that overtake and get it to stick. And if you're both doing the same lines, then your best option would be to pressure your opponent into making that small mistake. Through. Ferro getting very loose there on the through Blanchimont. Bas van Melis making the Mustang look good out there. Yeah, it does look quite good in Bas's hands. That's Baki. Baki's off in late. He haven't had the best day in the office so far, Baki, but good positioning side by side now with Ferro and Carlson. Carlson fending off on the inside, but Pharaoh can't get earlier on the throttle there. It will be a run into Erouge. Pharaoh have pulled ahead already, but will the BMW have the top end to pass? Pulls in behind, he can take the slipstream down Camel Straight. A little bit of brake tapping from both drivers, let's see how it will go. Better run from Carlson, looks like. All over the back of Pharaoh already. Behind the trees of destiny, let's see what will happen. Showing himself at least, but Pharaoh actually pulling away in a straight line. Even with the slipstream advantage there to Carlson. So yeah, strong move from Pharaoh. Didn't see exactly how that started, probably in the bus stop with a different line. Or a half center, something like that. But if Pharaoh made the move, stick at least. And got himself up into 8th position. Still need to pit both of these drivers though. Van der Kran are the next man up the road from Pharaoh, but 4.2 seconds, that's quite the gap. Let's see after the pits where Bas have come out. He's currently timed as being in let's see when he crosses the timing line. If he got Vale or not, or Vale got him. Oh, he's still ahead of Sander Vale, is Bas van Melis after the pit stops. And they are in it with the drivers there. Also Koi with a great stop. Having passed Bas, of course, so he's up against Odelman next, so Koi will within the top 10. But here we have Mr. van Melis in the frame. Well clear of Sander Vale, so Vale, he will definitely have to push hard to catch up to Van Melis at this point. Have to do it all over again. Maybe they both either took or didn't take tires. Shelikins not with the best of races so far this evening. We have seen a lot of times where the 39 car have been illuminated by yellow lights on the track map, which indicates it haven't been smooth sailing for Mick in these treacherous spa conditions. Almost like being in a jacuzzi, some would say. And now Shelikins under severe pressure from behind. That's Steve Parker actually with the early pit stop from Parker. Tries it on the outside, but not quite. Shelikins fends it off, but runs deep. Parker on the side-by-side again. The double switchback is on. But now Parker just getting a little bit too much wheel spin. Then now Parker under pressure from Parties after not being able to successfully overtake Shelikins in that situation. Parker goes a little bit deep there. Parties almost looks for the gap that Parker left by running deep through Brussels. Could also be the line that Parker chooses. Some people choose to do the wide double apex. Some takes a narrow double apex. Others just go to the apex and hold it there. Not entirely sure in these conditions. Parker runs a little bit wide through Puan. Meanwhile, Parties goes safe through and he makes the move down there and through Puan does Parties. Though Parker still on the inside into Piff Puff. Will he strike back? Avoids the contact there. Good job on the braking from both drivers. But a position lost from Steve Parker. Drift King down to 26th position. And Parties up to 25th, of course, in the Swabberino there. But Parties runs wide through Paul Frere, so this allows Parker to go back at it. Williams with a shorter spin there through Puong, it looks like. Through Blanchimont, they go close together. Will Parker be brave enough for the dive? I don't think so, not from this distance. Parker will be smart enough to just stay behind Parties. Take the line. Hope Parties make a little bit of a mistake. Looks like Parties didn't get the best of bus stops there. A little bit too late on the braking, maybe. As he gets on the throttle. I think that's Van der Kran coming up behind to put a lap down on these drivers. Not that often Van der Kran laps Parties or Shellikens for that matter. I don't think that we have seen that in races without mistakes and dry conditions. Also, Parker being a lap down is not that usual when he keeps it on track, though he have a little bit of a tendency to get involved in small incidents. A little bit of a slide there from Parties, but he keeps it going. But allows Parker back in it. This is a great battle they have between them here. Parker to the inside of Parties. Not quite there to make the move. Gets reasonably close to each other through Laguna. They go, but this time Parker way wide. He will let Van der Kran go through and put a lap on him. And maybe he was a little bit too kind there. That's a huge time loss to Parties and Shellikens. Parties again with the looseness of the Ferrari. It looks like. Can he catch up to Shellikens at this point? While all this have gone on, Boss have caught up to Koi as well. Battling wise, so maybe Koi on the defense for the first time all race. Very much so, actually, as Boss follows him through the puddles on the right hand side. The rooster tails aren't disappearing as a dry line is forming on the track. Koi still fending off Boss there. Fair and square looked like so far. Through Lake Common into Brussels we go. Both cars going very wide through Brussels. It is such a tricky braking zone because you have to go so far down in speed. Usually you'll be trail braking into Brussels as well. At least for the last parts of it. Also, it is going very, very steep downhill. Mr. ROE in the YouTube chat as well. Hello there, Mr. The racing is incredible this evening, I must say. This is a Boss and Koi battling. Usually, Koi will be on the attack this time. Almost through Piff Path. It looked like it was a big opportunity there from Boss, but both cars a little bit shaky. It looks like they're definitely on the limits of the car's capabilities at the minute. Not the best runs of Koi there. Boss goes for it. With the overspeed, nowhere really to go. Tries to left and right. Looks on the outside. Tucks back into the slipstream. Maybe the wisest thing not to go for into Blanchimont. But let's see into the bus stop. Then Koi with the much worse Blanchimont. Into the bus stop side by side. Equal on the braking. It looks like Koi on the inside for the first part. But Boss stays in there. Could have maybe, if they avoided that contact, gone forward through the second part of the bus stop as he really was there. But onto the finish straight. Boss goes for, looks like Koi actually gives the position voluntarily there. Maybe he feels like he was at fault for the slight contact they had there through the bus stop. But Koi drops behind Boss. Maybe he will find it back down the Camel Straight. Through it, ooh, Koi, that's maybe a little bit too close to the wall for comfort. He will definitely not get him back down the Camel Straight. But that little slide there, that costs so much. Because you really have to be careful on how you try to save it. If you're too aggressive on the steering there, then you'll just get into a spin. But just the right amount from Koi, saving that one. Meanwhile, further down, cars that haven't pitted yet. Carlson and Cardinal. Cardinal running so well early on in the race. Challenging for the podium even. Dropped to 8th, but still with the pit stop to go. He have passed Carlson though. The Swedish driver now with 10.5 minutes to go. So they will be expected to, or not expected, they will have to come in at some point to the pits. Ooh, that's Koi in the background that's gone very, very wide there. Maybe trying to get out of the way from Baldy. Yeah, maybe. Or was that actually Koi? Doesn't Koi have a teammate? That's Van Melis ahead at least. So I actually, yeah, it was Koi. Koi dropped all the way down to 15th. He must have been in some other involved something else than just the half spin that he had. Maybe not. Maybe it is just that risky running through Roost that lost him that much time that he have dropped behind bars, but by 3 seconds. But also saw him wide there at Puong. So definitely lost some on that. Meanwhile, Baldy here. And Bas just lets him have the room. Baldy looked like that he dove it a little bit there, but did manage to make it safely through and puts a lap down on the Dutchman. As he's still yet to pit Baldy, I think that he will just be taking that small splash and dash, and I do believe that Peters took the tires in the pits. Elsewise, it would have been a strange time to take that pit stop as he... if he only... Ooh! This time Baldy, and he lifts off that to avoid the track limit. That could indicate that Baldy is actually running on 3 track limits. Otherwise, usually you would take that warning at that point. So Bas got away and Koi also almost unlapping himself. But Baldy should have the pace to put Koi behind and catch back up to Van Melis and put the lap on him as well. But not what Baldy needed, as he needs all the clean airs he can possibly get. And if he can clear Bas, then he does have a lot of clean air ahead of him before he will see traffic again. Senatore in the pits. He was second before he chose to come in on track. But where will he come out of the pits? That's the interesting thing. He is rolling out there. I can see the 117. I think he is close to the 11. Now he's coming there. Let's see. That's Van der Kraan. That means that he is behind Peters by quite a margin, actually. Maybe Peters have gained the time that he will be ahead of Baldy after the pit stops. I don't have any data running next to me to give me an indication of that, but it could potentially be that Peters have actually cut the gap back in for a potential tire change. He also had a little bit of time before the pits as well. We must say it wasn't wheel-to-wheel racing at all between them. But yeah, that would be interesting to see. 6 minutes 40 to go. Baldy comes into the pits now. And Peters is on this side. Oh, I don't think it's enough for Baldy. I don't think it's enough for Baldy. I actually don't even think it will be tight between them, because Baldy is still running up in the Grand Prix area. So I think that Peters will actually have the lead by about 10 seconds or so when this is all done. Maybe even more. He might not even be stopped in his box before Peters passes him. I do know in GT4 cars, if you take 2 drive-throughs, then it's roughly a full lap of the track. Was it a drive from a pit stop? I think it's a drive from a pit stop that's a full lap of this the circuit. And yes, I know that from experience. Drive-through for Gracioli, that's track limits, I think. He is still stopped there. Come on, Baldy, get moving. Peters coming down the starting line. That's a long stop for just fuel there from Baldy. Yeah, and that's the gap. Baldy released into the bottom of the Rouge. Meanwhile, Peter's already passing the Camel King as we're speaking. But who's that car behind Baldy now? Is that Senatore? Hard to know. I think that's Vivard, maybe. Maybe it's Vivard. It could look like the color scheme of the THRC car. Could also be some generic WRT. I think that's a WRT livery. I think it's fine. Iron van der Linden. Then will be some sim racing Holland stuff. Yeah, Iron van der Linden. But I think that might be a stock WRT livery then. I think he's a sim racing Holland guy, and they would usually race black and it is THRC. Really? Looks a lot like the doesn't matter, but it is the THRC car. Yes, we can see it now a little bit more clear. We saw the try hard on the back. Yeah, they just look a little bit similar from the top view down. But of course, the THRC car is a little bit more symmetric in the livery as well, rather than the WRTs. I was thinking about the WRT livery that they run in the WEC on the 46 car. Looks a little bit similar from top down. But Baldy, good gap to Senatore at least. But 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds up to Peter. So yeah, not too interesting. 2 laps to go in the race. Vargas comes into the pit. Fiore will do it on the final time possible. Sayani needs to pit as well. Cardinal and Carlson also left to take their pit stops. Speaking of, Sayani comes in this time around. Meanwhile, Farrow down here, still locked into the battle with Florian Arf. These two have not been separable in this race so far. At least ever since they got close to each other. They seem to be matching each other quite nicely on pace here in these conditions. But I guess it is what it is. Speaking of, just for the results, Koi will secure the semi-pro / silver championship in this round if he stays ahead of Gracioli, who have gone into the pits for a drive, or will come into the pits for a drive-through. So I think if Koi, Vale here late in the race, trying to catch up to Koi, going a little bit wide there through Paul Frere. But yeah, Koi will be a crowned champion after this one. With 1 race to go, I still think that Koi is a racer that will show up for the last one and giving it his all. He will be looking at the overall championship then to see how far up among the pro drivers he can get himself mixed. Definitely on the promotion list for next season. With strong results that he have put up so far this season. I think top 10 maybe even on Imola, at least close to. Strong racing from him, Rory Stewart, and that's Steve. No, that's Partise. Rory Stewart and Partise. Rory actually gets the job done there on Partise. Puts himself up to 26th position. Both drivers involved and stuff in this race, and that's hence why they're so far down the running order. Do remember when the timer hits 0, the race is not over until the race leader crosses the start-finish line. And since they made that update to the game that the race leader is no longer a triangle on the minimap, that's a little bit annoying actually for situations like this. He's going through bus stop now, so it will be 1 more lap. As we knew from early on, he have started the final lap, so everyone behind him will be getting the white flag as well for final lap. Meanwhile, Rory Stewart having to defend from Partise with 1.5 laps to go for these guys. And Rory will definitely need to put on a strong defense to keep Partise behind. We know how quick Partise he can be. But he did manage to get that overtake done last lap around. Woo, Parties maybe putting it too close there for comfort, having to back out a little bit extra to avoid running into the back of Rory. As they're coming through Paul Frere this time around, too far behind from Parties to challenge for the dive bomb into the bus stop chicane, unless if Rory Stewart lifts off a lot more through these final couple of corners from the R2R racing car. That's the old name of the team that Rory Stewart and René van Dijkhuizen they had together way back when. I drove with them as well for a few races, and from time to time, very fun guys to do motorsport race with and endurance racing. So yeah. Meanwhile, Mick Schellekens and Gravioli just came out the pits from that drive-through that cost him dearly. But Mick Schellekens right behind, applying the pressure to Mr. Gravioli. The 19 car have gone around, causing a little bit of a yellow now in the final lap. That's yeah, story. No, yeah, that's Gravioli. Not the best finish to the race from him. Under pressure from Schellekens. Oh, the drive-through guy was Grazioli, not Gavioli. They are very similar, these Italian names, and that's Florian Arf, who have gone around as he started the final lap for himself. Big loss there, down to 18th. Not big loss, but he lost to Farrow there. He might actually just have gotten that move done on him. Finally, were he always ahead, but that definitely cost him to Farrow that one position. But there could have been contact because Cageman all of a sudden also jumped up to 16th in all of that. Meanwhile, Jordy Peters led from start to finish if we take virtual track position as well. Obviously, the pit stop rounds came into play there, but Jordy Peters wins the 4th round here at Spa. Great drive in the wet for Mr. Jordy Peters, who takes the checkered flag and the win. That's Baldy in second, the 13 car. Strong performance as well for him. Can't remember who's in third place. Definitely an Aston Martin. That's Senatore, who takes the final spot on the podium. Samuel von Liebenstein, haven't seen much to him all race, but he will be claiming 4th position as he rounds the bus stop. Meanwhile, the action is still going on with Coy and Van Melis here. Carlson right behind as well, as they still have about half a lap to clear before it's done for them. Fiore comes in to clinch 5th in this race. Let's see what happens between the 3 drivers here. All 3 front-end cars, Mustang versus BMW. Nick Vargas, who have done well in the championship so far, finishes off in 6th position here at Virtual Spa. But let's see, they are on to the run up to Blanchimont, these 3 drivers. It is Van Melis ahead of Coy, ahead of Carlson. I think Van Melis does have the gap to keep the 2 BMWs behind. At this point, Coy, with a little bit of slide, they could come under pressure from Carlson. Goes defensive, does Coy. Smart thing to do. Carlson tries it on the outside, trying to get it in there. No defensive move there, but gets the contact. Carlson stays behind, not wanting to take advantage of that. Bas in 12th, Coy 13th, winning the semi-pro silver class. Carlson takes the 14th, Vale in 15th, and so on down the field. Schellekens in 2nd in the semi-pros, and Gavioli in 3rd. Podium there. Ukunululu will be the driver that likely will get the honors of race win in the AM class, with Dickman right behind in 27th. AM class, we should just call it the Lamborghini Cup, as it's the 2 only Lambos. That would be quite fun. He might have run out of fuel. He's running very... Oh, that's the car that we saw spin also at Erouge or Radion. Might have been out of fuel. Might just be a lot of damage on the car. Definitely going a little bit extraordinarily slow. Dragging the race out basically at this point, but let's see. Oh, he's running in 6th gear. He's definitely running low on fuel as he's doing that, but if he's keeping his foot on the throttle, then 6th gear would not be the best way to save fuel in this situation. What does it say in the engine mapping? Does it say 1 in the engine mapping? Then he's not saving fuel. can't really see with the... well, no, engine is on 8. Yeah, he's definitely saving fuel. Now he knows he have enough to go across the line, and he does do so there. Great race here at Spa. 2 weeks until the season finale, though. What's the... yes, so great stuff. Let's see if anyone comes in for a very, very brief interview, because I must say that I'm a very, very tired man and wishes to get some sleep in this evening. But we'll just give it a little bit of time. But yeah, the drivers are probably still just taking off their gloves and breathing a little bit between each other, just getting that small breath of air into the lungs after a race like this. High intensity for them out there on a wet Spa. But a lot of the drivers focus for extraordinarily focused for 1 hour 15 minutes, as focus is much needed thing, especially in the rain. Dry conditions, you could usually do these on the routine, as people have been driven these tracks so many times in the years. But wet conditions always requires just a little bit of extra focus and mental readiness to get the racing going. But it is what it is. I think we'll slowly run down the stream. I have been Oliver Anderson, Mr. One of Oliver behind the cameras. As always, Grandpa Chris Hill. See you in about 2 weeks' time when we go racing once again here on Simsport Racing International on YouTube. Until then, bye bye.